Inside the Deck is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, sellers of Magic the Gathering and many other card and board games. GatheringMagic.com, your #1 resource on Magic the Gathering, strategy, and culture.
My name is Bernie Wen, and I'm playing Esper Blade today. I would categorize it as a control deck with some aggro elements. Like sometimes you can aggro them out. It's few and far between, but it's definitely a control deck that wants to win in the mid to late game, not the late game. So, and the deck is pretty similar to the traditional blue-white Stoneblade that was real popular a couple months ago. It transitioned to Splashing Black for Lingering Souls, but I didn't think Lingering Souls was really good right now. So it's Splashing Black for targeted discard, some sideboard cards, and also main deck bobs. Right now I feel like in the format, Lingering Souls is not very high impact. On turn 3, you're casting a 2/1/1s. On turn 3, they have a Grizzlebrand. You know, you want to leave your mana open for your spell pierces, etc., because they can pierce back. It's not very high impact. It's really good in a creature-heavy metagame, which I think it's shifting back towards, but right now it's not. I keep on playing because I feel it's pretty versatile. Like against a random field, if you're just playing a random deck, Stoneforge Mystic is very powerful. There's some decks that just can't beat Stoneforge Mystic. Like the Rug Delver decks, if they play against something that's not in the metagame, like say Goblins or Merfolk, they're drawing pretty slim. It's a bad matchup for them, but it's a pretty good matchup for me because of Stoneforge Mystic. Some decks can't beat a Stoneforge Mystic. And then on top of that, it has the control elements. I mean, the clock's not quite as fast as any deck with Delver in it, but the clock is there. So we have 2 extractions, 2 spell bombs. So that's 4 graveyard hate cards. And that's kind of a rule of thumb I go by. I mean, they can be in any form. They can be like relics, crypts, 4 ley lines. But how I feel about ley line is that you have to have it in your opener. With these cards, you don't necessarily need it in your opener. You can brainstorm or ponder into them or draw them. Later on in the game, they have a high impact. The Dark Blast is in there mainly for the Maverick matchup. It's really strong against Maverick. They have a lot of X1s, like Mother of Ruins, Noble Hierarch, Dryad Arbor. Jace is in there for the more grindy matchups, like Maverick, and also for the control mirrors. Perish is in there for any deck with green. It's a card that costs less than Wrath of God, and it's just very relevant that it costs 3 instead of 4 because a lot of Maverick decks will play Gaddock Teague. And against the Rug Delver decks, 4 mana is a lot. They have Spell Pierces, Dazes, Wastelands, so being at 3 is a good number. The third Spell Pierce is in the sideboard for matchups, combo matchups, and matchups where you're trying to resolve things. The Disenchant is in there for other equipment decks, any random deck with enchantments and artifacts. It's good against Maverick because they always have equipment like Jitte and also Choke, and you can't really beat a Choke. Also Sylvan Library. A Sword and Feast Famine used to be a staple in the main deck, and for a while I didn't even have it in the 75, but then I decided I wanted a piece of equipment that was good against combo. So it's pretty good against combo, makes them discard, and if they're discarding every turn, they're never going to be able to go off. Gilded Drake is in there for the show and tell matchups. They show and tell, you put in Gilded Drake, and you steal whatever fatter they put in. Edict is a piece of removal that hits Emrakul and Progenitus, and against other decks, you can manage the board where they only have 1 creature and you can Edict it. Explosives is against random decks that you might not have thought about. It's a really flexible card. Pithing Needle is in there. It can come in against a lot of matchups, like any Aether Vial deck. You can name Aether Vial, Wasteland, Mutavault. And also against Show and Tell and Reanimator decks, you can name Grizzlebrand, so they can't activate the Draw 7 ability. And a Path is just the 5th Swords of Plowshares. I feel like it's a deck where you have a lot of 55-45 matchups in your favor, and even in your bad matchups are at worst 45-55. I rather play a deck where I'm not drawing dead against any of the matchups. There are no matchups where you auto win or you auto lose. So there's a lot of play to the deck, which is something that I like. I don't like going to the matchup and realizing that I'm just definitely going to lose because of how the matchup is. So it's a deck that lets you play your way out of a lot of situations, and it plays blue.